Good afternoon, everyone. Once again, thank you all for joining our incident management webinar. Our training will get started in just a couple of minutes here. In the meantime, let's go ahead and review a few Zoom tips for you all. First, if you do end up having any issues with audio throughout the session, you can always choose to dial in. You can do that by clicking your audio settings and then selecting switch to phone audio. Throughout the webinar, you do have the ability to ask questions. All lines will be muted, and we ask that you put those questions in the Q&A box that can be found on your Zoom toolbar. You'll enter in your question and click enter on your keyboard. We do think it's most helpful to wait to ask your questions until the end of the session. We think we'll be able to answer some of your questions throughout the session today. So if possible, limit your questions towards the end of the webinar. We do have some time reserved to answer those questions. And lastly, we do want to make a quick note on your browser. If you are having issues, we do recommend that you make sure you're using Chrome, Firefox, or Edge. And we want to point out that Internet Explorer is not a supported browser. And lastly, if you do have any technical issues throughout the session that we can help you resolve, go ahead and send us a private chat. You can send that to one of the panelists that we have, and we will try to help you out as best as possible. All right, once again, welcome everyone. This is our incident management update training. Let's start off by talking about why we are all here today. So really what we've been trying to do and will continue to do is to really help improve your experience as an end user. We really have heard a lot of your comments that you've made and some of the surveys that we sent out, and we've done our best to incorporate some of those into the system. So really today is just about a set of updates that are going in on July 2nd of this year. I do want to point out that this session is different than the session we hosted a few weeks back. That session was about a set of updates pertaining to workflow and incident management lifecycle. And this set of updates is a bit different, and we're going to go over what that looks like. But again, these are all updates being made to the incident management module in MWMA, and they're going in on July 2nd. So a couple of goals for this session. Of course, we want you to understand what's changing as of July 2nd. And as always, we want you to feel comfortable using the incident management module in MWMA. A few housekeeping items before we dive into our content. Again, I'll remind everyone that you can ask questions throughout the webinar. We ask that you do that through the Q&A box. That just really helps us keep track of questions, and it helps us make sure we haven't missed anything. So instead of using the chat, please make sure you're using that Q&A box. Again, that's found on your Zoom toolbar. A few objectives before we dive in. Again, today we do want to just provide an overview of those key changes that are going in on July 2nd of this year. We want you to understand the new functionality, and again, just have sufficient knowledge on how to manage incidents in MWMA. We will have, as always, a training evaluation at the end of this session. We greatly value your all's feedback. We read every comment that we receive, and your all's feedback really helps us improve our trainings. So if you do have 5 minutes at the end of this session, we would love to hear your feedback. We'll post a link to that evaluation again at the end of the webinar. But again, we really value your feedback, and it helps us out quite a bit. So thanks in advance to you all. Okay, let's go ahead and dive in. We'll look at what our next hour together looks like. We're going to start off just by going over briefly all of the changes that are going into place on July 2nd. And then the next portion of our webinar will be going into each one of those changes in depth. So that's our second portion of the webinar. We're going to go by each item and talk about what those changes look like. And then lastly, we do have a good amount of time reserved just for Q&As. So this is the time when we will answer your questions that you put in that Q&A box. Again, we encourage questions, and we'll ask that you put those in the Q&A box. Okay, let's start off just by going over what is changing. So our first item at the top there is a workflow update for users who request more information on the incident or risk mitigation reports. So if you will remember from our last session, for those of you who joined, we did talk about how internal users or CHFS staff have the ability to request more information about an incident. So we've just changed that just a little bit. The tasks are a little bit different and allow our internal users to be more specific about what information they're looking for. So we're going to go over what that looks like in just a couple of minutes. Our next item on the list is about case management agency access. So our case management agency users can now complete incident reports if providers lose access to an individual's tasks. And this is going to be in a very specific scenario where the direct service provider has an incident in progress and they lose access to that individual due to avoided service. So we're going to go over what that particular scenario looks like. The next few items are just kind of about ease of access. So one really helpful update that we've made is changing the incident search screen to add even more parameters and more columns in the search results. So this will allow you to search for kind of the exact incident that you're looking for. And then those search results that you get in return are going to have even more details to give you more visibility about where an incident is in its life cycle. Next, we've added a quick navigation feature. As you're going through an incident report, there's now going to be a quick navigation button that'll take you right back to the incident summary screen. So that'll be a helpful button for you all. Next, we've made a slight update to one of our incident category questions. This is going to be on the MWMA screens for recording injury due to restraint. Again, a very minor update there, but we'll go over what that looks like. And then last but not least, we're really excited to announce that incident management reports are now going to be available for you to run. Those are available for our CHFS internal reviewers, our case managers and supervisors, and our direct service provider supervisors. This is a piece of feedback that we heard from you all throughout our surveys that you all would really like to see reports and have more visibility. So we're really excited to be able to offer this to you all. And I know a huge benefit of reporting incidents in MWMA is that it does give us really great data that allows us to generate reports. So we're excited to be able to offer that feature to you all. All right, before we move on, I do want to touch briefly on what is not changing. So we have not made any policy changes. The only items that are changing are the slight updates that we're going to go over with you today. So nothing with policy has changed. And with that, we have had no changes to incident reporting timelines. So all of that is staying the same. And lastly, there are no changes to user access. So again, the only items that are changing are those slight adjustments that we're going to go over with you today. Let's start off by looking at case manager accessibility. So with this update on July 2nd, a task will be created for case managers and supervisors when a direct service provider loses access to the incident management reports for an individual. So this is going to be in a very specific case where a direct service provider actually has some incident report in progress, and then they actually lose access to that individual and therefore the incident management tasks because of avoided service. So this would be a case where that voided service is the only service they were providing, and therefore they've now lost access to that individual. So now when that happens, a task for the case manager or supervisor will be generated so they can go ahead and complete that incident report. So it's just a way to make sure that we're able to complete that incident report that the direct service provider had in progress. Let's now just take a look at an example that illustrates that a little bit better. So we have Maddie here. She is a direct service provider supervisor. And let's say that she has a risk mitigation and investigation report that's in progress for an individual. So she has started this report. She did not complete the report. Maybe she got caught up in something else and had to just save the report and was going to go back and complete it later. She's not completed this quite yet. In the meantime, a service was voided on that individual's plan of care. And Maddie actually ended up losing access to that risk mitigation and investigation report task and the individual's information. So Maddie is no longer able to complete her task because she's lost access. So when this occurs, Maddie's existing task is closed out and a new task is created for the case manager user group to complete that risk mitigation and investigation report. So again, this is just a way to make sure that we're able to complete any tasks that were in progress in this particular situation. We're going to now take a look at requesting information updates. And for that, I'm going to turn it over to my co-host, Boyd.
Thanks so much, Hannah. So like Hannah mentioned, there have been some updates made to requesting additional information in MWMA for some of the specific incident management reports. So we'll go ahead and take a look at what that looks like. More specifically, there's been some enhancements made to the process of requesting, viewing, and reviewing additional information requests. And more specifically, now there's going to be new tasks that will be generated for those additional information requests made by internal reviewers. These new tasks have really just been redesigned to tell you more specifically what report that request is for and who exactly the request is being made to. These tasks will also help to notify you when a specific report has been resubmitted so that task can then be closed. So we'll go ahead and move forward and take a look at what these new tasks look like. You can see at the top highlighted in yellow the old tasks that will now be decommissioned, and the new tasks are located below. So these new tasks, they will specify that an incident request for information has been made, an RFI, as you can see there, and it'll also specify which agency that is for, so which MWMA user is going to need to complete that additional information request. And it's also going to specify what report that request is being made for. So if you take a look at those 4 new tasks in the blue boxes down at the bottom of your screen, you can see the top left, it's an incident request for information specifically for a case management agency, and they would like more information about the incident report. You can see the same goes for requests made for providers and requests that are being made for risk mitigation and investigation reports. So just the main change here, these new tasks are going to be very specific to who needs to complete the request for additional information, and you'll also be notified what report that request for information is for. So let's take a look at what this is going to look like within MWMA. So this screen is going to be for internal reviewers. When they are completing their CHFS fact-finding report, you guys are used to seeing down at the bottom that save and request button, but in the past there has also been a next button. So the main difference that has been made to this screen is really just based on the workflow that you choose to go through. So if an internal reviewer chooses to select that additional information is required, you can see here on the screen, they have selected yes to that question there. That is when the save and request button is going to be populated. And once they fill out the information, notify someone that additional information is required and explain what specific information they need for that report. At that point, the internal reviewer will then hit save and request, and that is when the new task will then be generated for the respective MWMA user to complete a request for additional information. On the other hand, if the internal reviewer selects no on this screen and they have all the information necessary, there's no additional information required, the Save and Request button will not populate, and instead you'll see the next button that will allow internal reviewers to continue with their CHFS fact-finding report. So once they do fill out that form and say they select yes, that additional information is required, and then click Save and Request, this is the screen. It's a pop-up that's going to happen in MWMA, and this is what internal reviewers will then see. Basically just notifying them that they are making a request for additional information, and those new tasks that we saw previously, one of those will then be generated for the respective user to provide that additional information on the specific incident management report. So they'll go ahead and click Continue. And then on the other end, the specific MWMA user who completed the initial report will then receive that new task on their dashboard. And at that point, they can follow the task to the incident summary screen. And at this point, they're able to see the different incident report and risk mitigation and investigation report that were submitted and where specifically the request for information has been made. So you can see on this screen, the internal reviewer has requested more information for the incident report itself. So on the right-hand side of the screen, there's going to be a new action for that user to complete the request for additional information. So they'll go ahead and click on that little button there. And this is where they will be directed. So depending on which MWMA user it is, they'll be directed directly to the document upload screen for the incident report. And if the request is made for the risk mitigation and investigation report, it will also navigate them to the document upload screen. But here they're able to review the specific text box of what the internal reviewer was requesting. So here you can see that that internal reviewer is requesting more information from this specific incident report, and they would like to see the coroner's report attached. So at this point, the MWMA user will then attach the necessary documents and complete that additional information request. And then upon resubmission of this document, that request for information task will then be closed, and a new task is going to be created for that same internal reviewer to then go and complete the remainder of their CHFS fact-finding report. So on that same screen, under the information that the internal reviewer requested, you may have seen the View Information Requested History button. That's a new functionality that's been added in for you all, and that's essentially just going to allow you to view any past requests for additional information for that specific document. So say you click on that button there, you'd like to see any past additional information requests. It's going to populate this pop-up right here that's going to provide a history of what specifically was requested for that report, who requested it, the date and time that that occurred, and when the report was resubmitted with that required information. Next, we'll move on and look at a couple updates that have been made to incident searching within MWMA. So based on a lot of the feedback that we received from you all, it was very important for you guys to understand and have insight as to where an incident was in the review process after you have completed the necessary steps for reporting that initial incident. So a couple new search parameters have been added along with search result fields that should help you all narrow down specific incident searches and really identify what incident report you're looking for and where in its life cycle it is. So you'll see here at the top a couple new search parameters that have been added when searching for incidents. You'll see that you can now search by incident classification, as well as the service type at the time of the incident and the report submission type and when that submission occurred. And coinciding with that, there's going to be some new search results fields to display those results. So that's going to be the incident classification, along with the submission dates for the case manager sign-off report, case manager fact-finding report, and the CHFS fact-finding report. We'll go ahead and move on and take a look at how that'll look when you're searching for an actual incident. This is going to be the new updated incident search screen, and you can see not much has changed other than the fact that those new search parameters will be added at the bottom. These updates should hopefully provide a little bit more visibility for you all as to where they stand. As you can see, you can search by incident classification, service type, and add some more excuse me, specific details as to the report submission type and when it was submitted. Next is going to be the search results screen. And you can see here that those new search results fields have been added to go along with the new searching options. So you can see that incidents will now be displayed if you would like, based on incident classification and the submission dates of those 3 different incident reports. Next, there's just been a few updates made to incident summaries, as well as a new shortcut that's been added in for your all's convenience. So currently in MWMA, based on the hierarchy of users submitting specific incident reports, the listing of all the incident management reports on the incident summary screen is not viewable to all users who have access to that initial incident. So we know you guys, kind of going along with those new search options, you wanted more visibility as to where an incident stands in the reporting lifecycle. So any user who has access to a specific incident, like on that incident summary screen, is now going to be able to view the status and submission details for all the other reports that are associated with that incident. So you'll be able to see a lot of the information that goes along with when reports have been submitted, who submitted those reports, if any of the classification of the incident has changed, among other details that you can see in that list there. You'll also see those on the next screen. But hopefully this is going to limit some of the confusion that you all were facing about the progress of an incident and its reporting life cycle, and really ensure that everyone knows where an incident stands in the reporting process. So this is what that'll look like. I do want to note that this screen is going to vary for people depending on what specifically what type of MWMA user you are. But you'll now all be able to view the status and submission details for all the incident management reports that have been involved. So you can see here, it looks like a provider supervisor completed this initially, and they have access to an incident report as well as the risk mitigation and investigation report. And they're able to click on those hyperlinks there to still go view the reports and look at all the information that they entered in the beginning. But now also they'll be able to see the status of the remaining reports as the incident moves through the incident reporting process. So you'll not be able to click on these new documents, but you will be able to see the status of that report, as well as when it was created, who it was submitted by, when it was submitted, as well as if the classification changed, which you can see there on the right side of your screen. Next, there's going to be that new shortcut added in that I mentioned. There is a new return to incident summary button that's going to be added, allowing you to navigate directly back to that incident summary screen on different incident reports. So this new button has been added in previously. I believe you guys had to click back through the entire report just to return to that incident summary screen. And this should really cut down on the number of clicks that you're required to make. Really just make the reporting and reviewing process a lot smoother and more efficient for you all. So just a quick note that you can see here, this report has been completed fully. You can see all those green check marks over there on the left side. So it is required that a report is completed and submitted fully before this new shortcut is going to pop up. But when you're going back to review a document or make any changes to a document, you'll see that new return to incident summary screen or button, excuse me, that will allow you to quickly navigate back to the incident summary screen. Next, there's been a new incident export functionality that's been added in for you all. So you'll see here on your dashboard home screen that there on the left side under the Quick Links tab, there has been a new export incidents functionality added in. So we'll go ahead and click on that and see what that looks like. And this is what's going to pop up when you click the Export Incidents button. This essentially gives you guys the ability to filter different incidents based on specific parameters that you enter. And then you can then export all of that information directly into an Excel for a very convenient report for you to review. So you can see here, there's many different parameters and options to sort specific incidents by. None of them are required, so you can choose as many or as few as you would like, other than the two at the bottom, if an action plan is required and whether or not that incident has been downgraded. But you can go ahead and click on or enter any necessary information, and at that point, click Export to Excel. And all of that information relating to the specific incidents will then be exported into an Excel document for you to review. Next, we have a few very minor updates made to incident subcategories. So you'll see here that some updates have been made to the MWMA screens for recording specific injuries due to restraint. You can see here there's the chemical restraint option as well as physical restraint. And there's just been a few new boxes added where you need to indicate whether or not that injury was due to a chemical or physical restraint, and then provide any details about that specific injury itself. Just a quick note, these new questions that have been added in are not going to affect the determination of the classification of that incident. So whether or not MWMA classifies it as critical or non-critical, whatever you enter in the information fields on this screen is not going to affect that classification. And finally, this is a new update that we believe you guys will be very excited about. This is the addition of incident management reports. So these will be going into place on July 2nd when that update occurs. But this is, we think, one of the many benefits of reporting incidents in MWMA. It's really going to provide a lot more visibility as to specific types of incidents that are occurring a lot. It'll give you access to very valuable data for you to review and present if need be. And you can also view a lot of the different trends that are occurring across all of the incident reports. So these new reports are going to be available specifically for CHFS internal reviewers, case managers and supervisors, and direct service provider supervisors. And you can see down there at the bottom the 8 new reports that will be available for you all to take advantage of. So you can take a look at incidents reported in MWMA, a report about individuals for which an incident was reported in MWMA, different incident subcategories and categories that have been reported, individuals who have experienced the same incident more than once, risk mitigation and investigation report metrics, seclusions and restraints report, any incidents that involved a death category and was reviewed by CHFS, and finally, the critical incident reports submitted within the required timeframes. We'll take a look at how you can access these reports. So looking back on the dashboard, you can see that you'll be able to access these new reports under the View Reports functionality on your Quick Links tab. So here under that case management section, you'll see a new View Reports button that you can click. Before we move forward into the actual report, I do just want to say that this screen is going to vary depending on your level of access within MWMA. But if you are one of the specific MWMA users who has access to the reports, you will see that View Reports button on the left-hand side of your screen under the Quick Links. So once you click the View Reports, you'll be directed to the Incident Management Report screen. And this gives you the opportunity to then generate a new report. So you can see a list of those 8 new reports that have been added in there on this screen. And you simply just click the report that you would like to generate, and it will pull up the screen where you can input all of the necessary information that you would like included in that screen. Once again, the screen is for a direct service provider supervisor, so it may vary. Along with the remaining few pages we have left, they are going to vary depending on your level of access within MWMA. So in this case, the user selected to begin an incidents reported in MWMA report. And at this point, you have the opportunity to really customize the report in any way that you would like. So you can go through and select the specific parameters that you would like to choose. Note that you do have to fill in the information for any parameters with a red asterisk next to it, but the incident classification and incident status currently are optional parameters that you may fill in. And then at the bottom there, you can see the report format. That gives you the opportunity to either export all of this information as an Excel document or a PDF document. So we can see here, the user has entered all of the necessary information and they are ready to export it and view that report. So they'll go ahead and click View Report. And at that point, then you are given the option to either download the report or go ahead and open it. So depending on which browser you use, the screen is going to vary, but anytime you click that View Report functionality button, you will then see a pop-up that your browser is downloading the document. And at that point, you should have the option to either go ahead and open the report and view it itself or save it directly to your desktop for later review. So this is what the reports are going to look like. Like I said, it's going to be either an Excel document or a PDF. This screenshot is based off the PDF that we downloaded. But if you are in Excel and if you're familiar with Excel, there are different sheets that you can navigate between. And this specifically is going to be page 1 or sheet 1 of the Excel document. So you can see here, this report just gives a general overview of the information. It's going to give information on the number and percent of incident reports that were submitted in MWMA during a selected time frame that you indicated before when entering the parameters. And like I said, this is the incidents reported in MWMA report. So this screenshot is going to vary along with the downloaded report. It's going to vary depending on which report you select, but it will include all of the information that you entered on that parameters screen. So moving forward, this is going to be page 2 or tab 2 if you're in Excel. And this just shows a little bit more information about the specific report itself. So you'll see here, you can see incident classification, as well as the status of that incident, the number of incidents that occurred, and the percent of incidents. And finally, for this specific report, this is going to be the final page, page 3 or tab 3 in Excel. And this is going to show the full report and include all of the parameters that you selected when building that report on that first page we looked at. So you can see here all of the necessary parameters that you wanted to show in this specific report are being displayed on this final page. And this is really going to be the page that provides a lot of the visibility and a lot of the valuable data that you guys really wanted to access to. So we hope you all take advantage of those new reports and they're very helpful for you guys moving forward. Just to kind of wrap things up, that covers all of our content for today. I do just want to let you all know that there are a lot of different resources for you to take advantage of. We do have our quick reference guides that have been developed for the incident management updates. And those 3 that you can see on your screen are all located on TRIS for you to take advantage of. We also have the FAQ document that has been updated to reflect all of the changes made to the MWMA incident management module, as well as include some of the questions that you guys have asked in past trainings. And we also have micro videos in development for this specific update, as well as past micro videos that are extremely useful when learning how to navigate the different incident management modules within MWMA. We'll have a recording of this webinar along with the slide deck that we presented today for you all to take advantage of as well. And access links to all these training materials and resources are going to be emailed out to you following today's webinar. So keep an eye out for that within the coming weeks. And I see that there's not many questions up in the Q&A functionality yet, but I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Alicia Clark, and she's going to be able to address any questions you all may have. So if you do have any, please go ahead and put those in the Q&A functionality in your Zoom toolbar, and Alicia will be able to address them now.
Good afternoon. My name is Alicia Clark, and I will be here to answer your questions that you may have. I didn't really, to be honest, anticipate too many questions just because we are not changing any type of policy or anything like this. The changes that are being made are more to try to assist you with doing your work with like the reports, assisting with quality. I do know that there was one question that came in, and that has been answered by Andy, one of our OATS staff. But will these reports for the incident reports previous or prior to July the 2nd, or will it include incident reports that are after July 2nd? So these reports, when you go in to put in, what you're looking for, it's going to give you the information even from the incidents that you put into the system prior to July the 2nd. I do know that we were asked in at least one or maybe both of our other training sessions, are we going to get access to the recording, to the slide deck? Yes, we're going to put all that in Tris, so be looking for that. Please use all of these trainings that we put out for you. When you get new staff, Tris is very, very important to have. So if you don't have that, please let me know so that we can make sure that we get you the information on how to request access to Tris. If you're not getting, if you're especially case manager, you're not getting emails from us, please make sure your information is updated in COG. We do have a kind of a tip sheet that we are working on. Amy is kind of heading that up for us, which is almost complete. And once that is complete, we'll send that out, but we're going to place that in Tris as well for providers to make sure that, you have everything at your fingertips. And Amy, I do see that somebody, and let me make sure Amy is on. Didn't have my pen. Okay, yeah, Amy is on. So Amy, do you care to put into the, and this is going to go into the chat feature, it's easy for you to be able to copy and paste so that you're not trying to write everything down, but I'll ask Amy to go ahead and put over there on how to request for Tris access. So be looking for that, because somebody said that they did need access to that. Somebody said they have incident reports from April that no further information was requested. They were signed off, and I had to get the help desk to take it off my taskbar. They're on my taskbar, and why? So if you, and this is kind of, let me just kind of put this out there for everybody. If you're having a system issue, please call our 844-784-5614 number and choose option 1 to reach the MWMA contact center. This is the technical folks. So anytime, like if they're back on your taskbar and you're like, well, what in the world? Why are they there? Let them know, because we want to investigate that. We want to get those off if they're not supposed to be there. So please call them and let them know. And that goes for anything. If you think the system is supposed to be working a certain way and you're like, oh, I didn't get this notification. That's kind of one of the things that was brought up a couple days ago to us, that they were not receiving instant notifications. Well, there was a defect. So we are working diligently to get that fixed, to do an emergency release, to make sure our case managers are getting the notifications when an incident is put into the system by our direct service providers. So at any point in time, don't hesitate to ask for assistance or let us research further, our technical team, on issues that you think may have, come about with your daily work. Somebody said, so moving forward, we should have the case manager enter an incident report when someone is not showing active with the provider due to a plan of care in progress or waiting on approval. So if a service has been voided, then they're not going to be able to have access to anything that they've started. So in that particular case, that task is going to be sent to the case manager. If they have already started something, so say that the plan of care has ended, but they've already started an incident report for the time period in which they had them, the direct service provider will still have access to that task to finish what they started. What I do really emphasize is it's very, very important that our case managers and our direct service providers are working together, and it takes really a team to do this, right? It's not all on our direct service provider, not all on our case manager, but to ensure that we have prior authorizations in place prior to services being started, prior to the next level of care year beginning, that we get those in place and get those submitted in MWMA timely so that everybody has access to everything that they need. Because if you, so say if I'm a case manager and I'm working on going ahead, we're starting services, but I haven't put those in MWMA yet, and something happens to Amy, that direct service provider isn't going to be able to put that in there because they're brand new to them. And so they've never had access to them. So they've got to have that PA. So it's really important to make sure that we're being as proactive as we can, having everything in place so that our all of our providers and everybody has access to what they need. Somebody had also asked about the request for additional information, what what that might look like. And when we request additional information, we're going to give you, maybe we need, I'm just going to say a police report. We can put in there, we can actually type, hey, can you please upload the police report? And that kind of led to, well, if we have information, should we upload it? If you have information, it is better to go ahead and upload and input all the details. Some people are more detailed than others, but it gives everybody a clear picture of what took place. I'm just trying to think of some off the top of my head because I know that we don't have any open questions. My key is not to keep you all here all day because I know that everybody is kind of strapped for time, but I'm just trying to think of some of the things that have come through. Like I said, we've not received a whole lot of questions just because this is kind of really updates to the system to help you all be able to manage your day-to-day activities better. Somebody had asked yesterday, well, what about if an RFI was requested and we don't have the information because maybe it was a PDS person that happened in their home? In that case, if there's something that's requested that you don't have, just work with your agency, whoever is doing the oversight. So it could be DMS, it could be Dale, or it could be BHDID, and just work with who requested that and say, we're always here to have open communication. I think that I can speak on behalf of our sister agencies as well, is we really want to work hand in hand with you all to help you all to make your jobs easier. I mean, yes, there are rules and regulations, policies that we have to go by, but we are here to be a team for our participants. Somebody had asked, should case manager receive a message in the message center when an incident report is submitted by another agency? So yes, the case manager should be receiving a message. That is the defect that we found once this, my understanding is once this latest release was put in, it evidently, you have to be very careful when you code things, but it is not allowing all of them to go through. So they are actually working, and Andy can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that I saw an email going by that they were already working on that like this week, and hopefully within the next week or two, that release is going to be pushed through. And Andy, did I say that correctly?
Yeah, you're right. I think they're targeting early next week to have that working again.
Okay, thank you. If an incident report doesn't need to be signed off by case managers, does it still show in a case manager message center that one has been done? So you should be getting messages in that message center for criticals and non-criticals. And if you haven't went and completed our previous incident training, I encourage you to go do that. Again, we have plenty of QRGs that are out there. We have micro videos that the team has worked hard on, along with FAQs and the training as well. We've got YouTube links to our training, and we always try to post one of those for you all. And again, Tris is your friend. It is my friend all the time. I go back and reference the QRGs myself. And somebody had also asked about the RFI and the task. So it depends on who submitted it. So if a case manager submitted it, then it's going to go back to the case manager. If it's like a direct service provider that submitted the original incident, and the RFI task is going to go back to those group queues. So that was something that was asked in a previous session, just to make sure that people understand where those are going to go.
Just to tag on with that a little bit, if it was submitted by a DSP or a DSP supervisor, it's going to go to the DSP supervisor group queue. If the incident was submitted by a case supervisor, then it's going to go to the case supervisor group queue. But if it was the case manager that submitted, it will go to that individual case manager's tasks.
Thank you, Andy. Nothing nothing's coming to the top of my head about any other kind of questions that were asked. So what I'll do is, like I said, I know everybody is strapped for time. I will actually go ahead and turn it back over to Boyd at this time to finish up this session, but we will remain on the line for a little bit, just in case if you all do, if anything pops in to your head to ask. We'll be sitting here monitoring the Q&A functionality, and we can answer those questions before you all get off if you have any that you would like to ask, and I'll turn it back over to Boyd.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Alicia. So just a few more reminders before we let you all go today. All these updates that we covered today will be going live on July 2nd. So you'll see all that new functionality in MWMA on July 2nd when that update goes live. Just a reminder, all those reference materials and training materials I mentioned will be available for you all to take advantage of, along with a recording of today's webinar and the slide deck we used. Those will be emailed out to you within the coming weeks, so just keep an eye out for those. Like I mentioned at the beginning, or Hannah did, excuse me, we do have that training evaluation survey. We really appreciate any feedback that you all could provide about today's session, things you enjoyed, new things that you would like to see added to the training. Anything helps make the next trainings better for you all. So Hannah has posted that link in the chat box. So if you don't mind, please go to the chat function and take the next 2 to 3 minutes to complete that survey for us. Also, if you end up having any additional questions on the final page of that survey, there is an option to add any additional questions you may have about this specific training. So You can either stay on the call and ask those in the chat box, or go ahead and put those into the survey, and we'll try to address those in the FAQ for you guys. Overall, we really appreciate everyone coming out and joining today's training webinar. We hope you have a great day. Thanks.